Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Robin Taylor. You may know Robin. He's from Yorkshire, as you'll pick up from his accent. And he's going to talk to us about, he's going to demo coach building. Is that right, Robin?
No, that's on the 26th of this month.
Oh, right.
I did a basic coach building.
Oh, yes, you did. He's going to talk to us anyway.
On the last one in February.
Yeah. Buildings.
And I had quite a lot of emails after that, actually, a lot of queries. Today's buildings. I think the technical team said do a 5 to 8 minute talk on buildings, which is now nearly an hour.
Right. Okay. Well, there's one thing that we need to understand. Do you want people to butt in and ask questions as you go along, or would you rather people write in the chat, use the chat facility and ask questions on the chat facility? Which would you prefer?
Well, the chat facility, if any questions come through that, and they're very welcome to come through that, that'll go via Tommy and Nick, I trust, because while I'm talking, I won't be able to sort of read the screen very easily.
Okay. Would you prefer that? Would you prefer that, Robin?
Yeah, if anybody wants to butt in, because we've only got 14 on at the moment. I was in a reps meeting earlier, and when there's not many on, they're all welcome to unmute and butt in as they wish, but please try and avoid talking over each other. Now, I know what it's like because we've done Zoom meetings for a long while as reps and committees and God knows what. And you do finally get to talk sometimes when an item's passed. And if it's a slideshow that I've got or something like that and the item's gone, don't worry, because we can go back to it. So, and if you don't get what you want out of this meeting, or you've forgotten or missed something, I am a guild area rep. You can get me details through the Gazette on news sheet. And after the initial coach building one in February, I got a lot of emails, and we could talk one-to-one on the phone or email for each other with any queries. So it doesn't finish in an hour. If you've got any problems, come back. No issues at all there.
Okay. The other thing that you need to know, gents, is that it will be recorded. Will this? Not for any ulterior motive, but it's just that we all want to listen to Robin, and it will eventually go on to the Guild YouTube channel. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, I want it legally recorded. What Lancashire people say to me.
No. So I think that's about all that we need to tell you, gents. So if you'd like to start, Robin, you have my permission.
Right. Well, we've been known for many layouts over the years. My first two that toured exhibitions were Rydale and then Leeds Road. And they're all quite well known for the scenery, because way back 40 odd years ago now, there were a lot of O-gauge layouts touring, usually as big test tracks and so on, without much scenery. And then working fairly nationwide as I did, I met John Bernard up in County Durham, who sadly now passed away. And he also had an interest in the scenery as well as the trains. So we got together and built, Ravensbeck originally, 5 small layouts that went on the back of there and toured individually because they would fit in a car. And then eventually Runswick Bay. And we had no end of questions, not about the trains. Nobody's interested in trains. They all want to talk about the scenery, particularly the wives and girlfriends and so on. So scenery is great if you're just getting into O-gauge, because the materials are cheap. If you make a mess of it, you can have a bonfire with it in the garden. You're not buying brass kits and £100 motor gearboxes and so on. So it's a great way to get the feel of the scale. I'm putting this on as a shelf just for now, temporarily, while I get when I can find the damn things. Man, if I take my close-up glasses off, that helps a lot. These are some buildings that we couldn't fit on Runswick Bay, and you can get the idea of what we sort of do. More or less, Jack liked doing the railway structures because he was a surveyor, and if you had a building that had wibbly wobbly roofs and walls that were bowing out or something, he wasn't too happy modelling that, because being a surveyor, naturally, it would have to condemn it because it was about to fall down. But that's the sort of character that we all like when we go to the seaside. And these were to be on Runswick Bay. There were some of the bits left over that are made up into a bit of a diorama. But you can see all different types of structures there. I'll just put that away because we don't want to be here 2 or 3 hours. Unless you're like me and you don't have much of a life. We can show you some of the different techniques we use. And if I show you that side first, one of the famous characteristics we were well known for were, like I say, the wibbly wobbly cottages. And you can see there's one with a bow in the roof. I think, well, that takes a bit of doing, where obviously over the years the timbers have sagged and things. Because these were built obviously with big oak beams and so on. And a lot of it, they were building things, even in them days, like barrack houses fairly quickly, where wood hadn't seasoned. There's a slight bow in that one as well. That's this one's stone slabs, which is very common up in Yorkshire, thin stone sheets. These are cobble pan tiles. The pan tiles came from Holland, and the reason for that on the Yorkshire coast, if you've ever all holidayed up there, is the flat-bottomed small ships would beach up on the northeast coast, be hand-filled with coal from the local mines and taken over in the Industrial Revolution to Holland, because they had steam-driven mills and engines and things. So they'd need coal. But being flat-bottomed sailing boats, they could quite easily capsize coming back. So they put old pan tiles and broken pan tiles and all the bits left over, threw them in the bottom of the ship to come back to keep it stable. And they just dumped these on the beach when they got back. Well, the locals initially picked all these up and used them for the roofing, which is what they're intended for, of course. So that's why you see so many pan tiles. Newcastle down to sort of the North Yorkshire coast. And older parts of Scarborough even, which is a little further down. Most of Scarborough's been rebuilt. The grey one there, that's plain old tiles, slate. The grey is normally Welsh slate. Black is normally Cornish slate. And the green is normally Cumbrian slate, so you can have the different colours. And on some of the buildings on the layouts, we pre-make them and give them a wash of colour. And you probably notice a lot of the rail buildings, they'll have a line grey slates with a line of green slates round as a fancy effect. Well, it's easy to just wash them in different colours, let them dry, and then stick them on, and that's how you get your ornamented roofs. The pan tiles, you can buy plastic sheets of them, and don't worry if they're double O gauge, because pan tiles come in all shapes and sizes. So just because it says double O, don't think, oh, I can't use that for O gauge. Look at it again and start measuring, and you'll find you probably can. The stone slates are not cut square. They're all various rough shapes that were put on. Of course, they're more liable to make the roof sag because they were heavier. Now, sagging roofs then, while we're on the subject. Easy to do sagging roofs, easier than a straight roof. Here's a sample I've made up. Bit of card, thin card, cheap card that's going to warp. You want it to warp. I've drawn an ellipse in the top of the ridge. I've then cut that ridge out, as you can see there. And then I apply contact adhesive and pull the two surfaces together when the glue's gone off, and it will stick. But then, of course, you get a little dip in the roof, as you can see on the middle one there. I've not even cut that to put it together. I'm just showing it's a demo piece. So you can make it as often as you want, as small as you want, or deep as you want, whatever. And then usually I put the chimneys in the middle where you'd have more support from the chimney stack, obviously. So that's the easy way to do your dipped roofs from your sagging old buildings. I think the railway company would be a little bit upset if you did all the railway buildings like that as well. The local engineer would be in trouble. We use a lot of sugar board or feather board. Now, this is waste. A lot of it we get second hand from skips. which is the best way to get things. And if you can get round the back of shops and shopping centres when they're normally open, of course, you can usually pick this out. That red and white was a huge grade A1 size sale, as you quite often see in shop windows at certain times of year, after which it goes in the bin. And you get various thicknesses. This is the thick stuff. There's some an eighth. That's the more common thickness, is that one. Compared to that, that's nice for stone buildings because you've already got your depth of windows and your strength. You have plenty of strength in this, and we either use that on stone or handmade brick, or we just cover it with plastic card, or the various other makes of covering you can get. Faller card is a very good one as well. Embossed faller card, we've got a lot of that on the layout. So don't worry about that. The only problem you do get with certain makes, and you've got to be careful if you're having to buy it, being a Yorkshireman, we try not to buy too much, is to make sure you can peel it off. And that reveals the foam surface, like a concrete effect underneath. And after that, then score it with a ruler and scalpel, nice sharp scalpel drawn down there. I've already done it on here to save time. And then, of course, you can't really see anything at the moment, can you? So when I put my glasses back on here, it's called old age. There we are. Put the pencil in the little line you just made and draw it down, and it just widens it out into a V. So you can see the line a little bit better. In fact, I've gone offline there because I wasn't looking. That's one where it is in line, is that hole.
You're disappearing off the bottom of the screen, Robin.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that. Now, there are some cross members when I get to one. On there, oh, there we are, there's one there. And you want a nice sharp pencil for this, a hard pencil preferably. This, to be honest, is a soft one. So you get the idea there, but then you move on to something like this, and I'll hold this up close so you can see it a little better. This is the big advantage of, it's known as sugar board, feather board, photographic mounting card. You can see I've scored large stone blocks on there. And in the middle, I've scored in a hard, sharp pencil for some bricks. Because quite often you see these old buildings that have been repaired or modified with bricks. And then, of course, up on a lot of the northeast coast, the stonemasons would have their own designs. And you can see there what's called a herringbone design. And if you think of a fishbone with the spine down the middle, and then the herringbones just drawn on lightly in pencil. And then, of course, there's another one there, which is just dots, stabbing the damn thing. And down the bottom there, if I can get it up, I think it might go out of focus a little. That's probably right. You can see a herringbone at the bottom there that's not been painted yet. To paint them, I just give them a thin wash with acrylics, or the oil paints will be fine. Acrylics, I find, take quite nicely. Don't soak in too much. But if you want to saturate something and cover an area quite quickly, a thinned down oil paint or Humber oil is better. When you're finished, then you don't want any stones throughout a building all the same colour. So you can pick an odd stone out, and you can see the herringbone one on the side there and the dotted one on the other side have been individually washed with a slightly different shade, just to give it a little bit more feeling. And of course, another advantage is if you've got a cement rendered building, we've got the rendering there. You saw this on the diorama earlier as well, but you may not have noticed it. We can just cut in a millimetre deep with the scalpel blade or a razor blade or whatever, take a little of the surface off, and then hand draw in some bricks again and wash them. So that's where the rendering's fallen off, and you can see that. Now you'll see that coming up on some slides because I'm going to share the screen with you. I think it's better to see detail because I've got a thing here on how to treat brick plastic card. I'm going to say Slaters, but it can be any make, of course. And there's just the different stages there, how we mix it in. So we do use plastic cards or plastic coverings. We use Faller card, embossed card it is, glued to the usually the thinner sugar board for strength. So you get your depth of the wall and you get your strength in the building. So I'll go on to share the screen if I may. I'm no great expert at this, so where are we? Share screen. And yeah, that one, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah. So that's a general picture of Runswick Bay, but we do have some demonstration slides on here. I'll whisk through some of the others and start off with the basic scenery on this diagram here. Now, can you all see that shared screen? Yeah, I've got a thumbs up from Tommy. And
Yep.
and I got a thumbs up from Dougie in New Zealand as well,
Yeah,
so that's fine.
Fine.
Right, well, we've done various articles, as many people have done with the layouts for various magazines over the years. And this is one we did that we thought was very important. And I've got some large templates made up here to show you, which we can go back to if we have time. Remember, when you start your layout, before you start laying track and you're scribbling on a piece of paper, and the technical committee have now got the wiki, of course. Go on the wiki because you'll find a lot of this information on there that are submitted before we started it, to be honest. The scenery was there millions of years before your railway ever came. So think of what sort of landscape you have. Are you on a hillside, in a valley? Of course, being modelers, we're awkward because we like to have a tunnel mouth or a bridge or a river, a viaduct or something, so we don't want normal scenery unless we're like John Obden and model the Fenlands with a Flat Earth Society baseboard. But even those would have some very nice drainage ditches with little culverts and things that are nice to model. Now, the one thing to remember, and it's up there, if you look on the wiki, you can enlarge all this. Well, I can enlarge it on here, of course, but 1 to 1.5 angle. You must remember that angle in all cases, because steeper than that, you will landslide and block the line. Now, you'll have seen a lot of this, and I think I've put this on the wiki as well. Where we've squeezed a 4th lane on a motorway, we've fit it in an area there next to the main roads. So we've re-landscaped that to steeper than 1 to 1 in 5. And then if they're doing it as you're sat in the roadworks waiting, I'm sure we've all done that, they put long spikes through into the hillside. Now they didn't do this originally very often. I don't know of it being done in Victorian times, but they would put spikes in to try and stop it landsliding. Where your 1 to 1 in 5 doesn't work, you'd have a retaining wall or cliff face. Simple as that. So bear that in mind, and that's for it's particularly important. I'll show a slide later of Ravensbeck where you've got this embankment at this angle and where it joins onto the normal scenery, which of course is a different undulating angle. Roads as well, we individually cut all the cobbles and stuck them onto a polyfiller or plaster base, and we coned it because think of your drainage. Your rain's got to run off somewhere, collect in the side and run along and down the gutter. Then your pavements are higher. If, of course, you have pavements. If you're a tiny country road, it probably wouldn't have a pavement. Moving down a bit then, we've got the... oh, sorry. Go back up. Just wondering where it is to go back up. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we are. I'll do it this way. We'll come back round to that anyway. Oh, yeah, you can see some of the cobbles there.
Hang on, Robin. Can I just say, I don't know whether it's the same for anybody else, but I've still got the picture of a loco coming out of a tunnel.
Right. But we went on from that, so I've got all the different slides up here.
Is it just me, or is?
No, I've got the same.
I'll do that.
It's a lovely signal.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Right, we're back up to that.
Can I just say for everybody that's joined us before Tommy introduced the meeting, that if anybody wants to ask any questions, you can either type your questions into the chat box. If you hover over the bottom of the screen, the chat box will magically appear if you want to ask a question. Type into that, me or Tommy will pass the questions on to Robin. Or alternatively, Robin's actually happy for you to unmute yourself and just shout your question out. So
just jump in.
It's up to you. So back to you, Robin. Sorry about that.
No problem. That's what we're here for. Right, while we're on this front screen then, before I leave it, we've got the slates there. Now, the easy way to do your slates, which are a more uniform roof, of course, is to buy a sheet, a pad of graph paper. And they're normally 1 centimetre squares. And each of these are a centimetre square. So you can cut a strip of them and cut a little V out of each one, as you can see, and then just overlap them. Cut them all out, cut them into strips. As long as you want, you can shorten them as you lay them on. Give them a wash of grey, blue, black, whatever sort of colour shades you want. Keep varying the colour. I tend to hand mix it in a palette, and then every time you do a little mix, it's a slightly different shade. Let it dry. Then you can stick it onto the roof. And of course, we had the deformed roof earlier, but you can do a perfectly square roof, which is more likely with the slates, to be fair. And I stick that on with thin down PVA glue. Any make will do, but I thin it about 50-50 with the water. So it's a paste, really. Put it on, do a few at a time. Don't try and do the whole roof in one evening. You tend to go insane. It's stone slabs. I tend to cut individually, and I don't make them uniform and square like that, because they were earlier and hand cut out of the quarries. They're usually about 1 inch thick, so 1 millimetre card is plenty. And then the pan tiles, what I found was buy some Cornish wafers, if you like cheese and biscuits, and basically any thin corrugated card or tissue is at the ideal section for your pan tiles. But cut it into strips again, similar to the slates. But when you do the cut at 45 degrees, so that as you lay them in strips, the pointed end of one slightly overhangs the other, and that's how we do them. So you always get the overhang as you would do in a pan tile, of course. And then ridge slates, we've used plastic drinking straws, chopped down the middle, quite a large diameter one, as large as you can get, for the curved pan tiles that sit up there. Or, of course, you can do that in stone as well, and just cut it out of thin card. Walls, this is walls just made up with various layers of card and the windows and things in. It's on the wiki, so I won't spend too much time on this. And that's, you can do it that way, or just use a piece of sugar board. But you can see there where we've covered it in a falla card, a plastic card, any sort of thing you want. I'll show you how to treat that in a minute. And again, the thicker sugar board when you're doing a wall, you can mitre the corners, no problem there. It's fairly hard, but don't worry about it if you don't want to do that, or you think it's too complicated. Pin it together. Of course, you'll have a nasty line down there then. Don't worry, put your down pipe over that to cover it, and you won't see it. So, and of course, the beauty with the feather board is you can put a nail or pin through while your PVA glue sets to stick it together. Moving on to the plastic card now. Now, can you all see the plastic card sample there?
Yep.
Good. Right. Well, if we start down here, that's as you buy it, of course. There's various designs, but that's how you buy it. What I do then is I give it a drift of, we've got a choice of 3 colours, and I use all 3. Go down to your car motorist shop and you can get the primers in grey and oxide, and of course you can get the matte black. Drift the colours across, and when you've drifted them across to colour it, let it dry, sandpaper it all. in the line of the bricks. And then after that, there's various techniques. I've done it in 3 stages here, where we pick an odd brick out with, say, a brown or red oxide, a slightly different shade of red oxide, and you can see there the colours are coming more to life, and then finishing with a third colour again, and we've got more life in the plasticard. But when you compare that to that, that's a totally different product altogether there, and far more realistic. Now I've got some close-up pictures of that on the layout. You can also wash in. I don't use white. It's like the artists say, never use black or white. Use a mixture of, or a dull shade of. That's a creamy colour where it's been re-rendered. A repair's been done, and you can rub that in with your fingers or a brush. Let it go off a little, then wipe it off with a cloth. So you're still leaving it in the cracks, so to speak, where we've done some re-rendering. Now I'll show you on this one. This is off Runswick Bay. You see there's an area that's been re-rendered, and that's plasticard with all the different colours picked out. And
I mean, you need to enlarge that picture, I think.
Right, we can do that. Yeah, because you've got smaller screens, haven't you? So
well, we're still looking at these brick samples.
How about that? Now, which are you with?
6 samples.
Just double click on that picture, 57, Robin. That should open it.
That's it?
No.
No, well, I'll do this, and then I'll go back to 57, won't it?
Got it.
Right, good. And then we'll enlarge that. Now, is that all right?
Yep.
I'm thinking, obviously, your screens could be smaller.
Yeah, we can see 57.
Right, good. Well, I'll talk about 57 for a little while. I'll make it a little larger and then move around in it. You can see there, slightly pixelated, sadly. Well, it is on mine anyway. This is the graph paper, cut and overlapped as slates. Are you all right with that?
Well, you didn't enlarge it. It's still the same size.
All right, it's enlarged on mine, but let's have a.
If you run your cursor over where you're actually pointing to, so we can see, that might help.
Is that any good?
Still the same size, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enlarged here, nearly double size.
That's not how it appears to us.
Now, can you see the image moving about?
No.
No, I can't see your cursor either.
Right.
I suspect it's the way you've shared your screen, Robin.
Yeah. We're looking at your file, Robin. We're looking at your file option.
You can see the cursor on that, can you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's have a go at this. Is that enlarged it for you?
No.
No, so that don't work effectively, does it? I'll just get rid of that back down to the so I'm hopefully the same size as you can see. The image to me is the full height of my screen and about a quarter of the width of the screen.
Yeah, that's the same for us.
Right. Oh, good. So we're all that's great then. Right, you can see there where rendering's been repaired. You can see, as I said earlier, the slates above. It's nice on the ridges. We've got folded card covering the ridges in a red for the terracotta. And to finish that off, and you can't see it on here too well, on the top, the middle ridge, the corner of it, so to speak, there's wooden skewers from your supermarket. Get some of them and paint them the same colour, same red, or red oxide, should I say. And that just finishes it off as the ridge then. You can see, hopefully, the different colours on the plasticard for the chimney. And then moving to the right, that's the sugar board we were going through earlier. And it's a nice example where we can see brick repairs, different types of feathering with the dots there, some weathering there. A lot of this, if you want more of a 3D effect where it's got worn, you can see there where the layout's been damaged in transport, actually, because it's right on the edge of the board. And some herringbone on there. But we just tend to press the sugar board in with our fingers and it stays. So you don't all get the same level. There's been a lovely article, which I don't really know of any other way people do it. It was the May 2020 Gazette, I believe. A guy was doing some work on buildings and he was ball penning the window frames onto some clear glass. That's what we've done here. I mean, this building or model is getting near 20 years old now. And we've got buildings that will be coming up on the slides that are much older as well. So it is quite stable and lasts quite well. Again, you can see the sugar board, a feather board on the viaduct there. The stonework's all rendered the same way, marked by pressing in with your fingers and so on to give the 3D effect. Forgive me, I'm going dry, so I'm just having a quick drink of Coke. I'll shut that image up and has your image changed?
No, I think you need to double click on it.
Yeah, I have done. So we'll try another way of.
Oh, there it is. No, we've got it now.
Right, good, right.
Yeah, it needs turning round.
Yes, it does. I'm just looking to try and do that, and I've got can't do that on this bit in mine. But that building, believe it or not, is just over 40 years old now, and it's been kept with the layout. Obviously, it's stuck on it. But the middle mill we were in some years ago was very damp. It's not being subject to too much sunlight, but that's another method. You can see the rendering on the end. Forgive it that the image isn't the right way up. I'll move on because we've got all these, and if anybody wants any of these individually, I can email them to you. You know, this isn't the end of the talk today, but this is cheap card again that soaks up water. It's ideal. Cornflake packets and such like. All a horrible card you would never use. And this is what's now a pub, the Dropping Well Inn at Knaresborough, but this is the rear view of how it used to be. And that is, as I say, made from cheap, horrible card, stone slab roof, cheap, horrible card again, so you can see the dips in the roofs. You can see a sample of pan tiles in the middle, and then you can see a nice big dip in the stable roof where they've obviously not bothered looking after that. That's brick plastic hard, given a drift, a spray of car primer, white car primer, and then rubbed down slightly where the whitewash is worn in. This, the main body of the building, that's fine sawdust from the pet shop, mixed with PVA glue and water, around 50-50 again, and then applied on with a palette knife. Let it dry, and it's chipboard really. That's all it is. It's solid chipboard, and it's made this building very solid over the years. Now, where the rendering's peeled off, it's actually hanging off, and you can slide things under it. It's hanging off so well. Now it's dried now, so it's quite stable. But basically, when it was almost dry, I got a piece of card, wrapped some sellotape around it the wrong way, stuck it on and pulled it off. And of course, it pulls a little bit of the rendering off, but leaves the nice jagged edges. So it creates quite a nice effect, again, where rendering's fallen off a building.
Robin, how did you make the guttering and the downpipes?
Well, gutterings are quite easy. Downpipes, I tend to use a lot of coat hanger wire. It bends easy, it's cheap, if the wife doesn't notice it's gone missing. And the gutterings, now, there's various methods with that. If you're lucky enough to have an old umbrella with a metal frame, that's a U-shaped channel. It's steel, so it's fairly hard to cut, but with a Dremel and a slitting disc, it's easy. So you can use that for a rounded bottom guttering. Now, this guttering's wood and it's square section, square U section. And you can get that, you know, the plastic centres, you can get it in plastic from them, but there's also, as part of their company, they do wood section. And okay, you're spending a little bit of money then, but it's nice effects that finish off the buildings. But all these pipes are basically coat angle wire. And then I've bought the gutterings. If I've not got them from an old umbrella, it's plastic crut or it's the U-section timber equivalent. Timber's better.
Okay, thanks, Robin.
Do you want to know an interesting aside about guttering then, Robin? Did you know that in Sheffield, most houses have got real wooden guttering?
Yeah, and it lasts a lot longer. And it burns really well on your bonfire.
Yeah, it's something to do with the steelworks in the olden days, and acid rain apparently made cast iron gutterings and so on rot very quickly. So all the houses in Sheffield are made with wooden guttering.
Is that lead lined as well?
No. You just paint the inside bit with bitumen and hope for the best.
Yeah, so is that your other job? And then you can keep the lead for your models.
Every year, yeah, that's right. Every year you go up there and scrape the moss out of them and put more bitumen in.
I was pulling my hair out to try and buy a lead sheet to put in the models, obviously. And over the Islands Emporium sell it occasionally, and it's quite expensive. I think Squires do as well. Then my brother, who's a modeller, he went down a scrapyard in Leeds and got more than he could lift for £2. It was lead sheet off a church roof or something, I presume, but it was just the stuff. The only thing is it's mucky and it takes a little bit of cleaning up. I'll move on down now to this one, moving back to the basic scenery. Those of you who are old enough, I mean, this is a view as it is today in our club rooms. This is Ravensbeck.
Still got the vertical one on, Robbie.
Right, hang on. I'll close that again and double click it again.
That's it.
Right. Maybe I double click too quickly occasionally. Right, I know Dougie's making the sister of this engine at the moment over in New Zealand. This is only on because you can see the 1 to 1 in 2 of an embankment. A strict angle so it doesn't landslip. I mean, it could be less, but obviously there'll be more soil involved, and you got to bear in mind didn't spend more money than was required on railways. And then we've got a demarcation line with the boundary fencing, and we go on to a different angle, so that is a different angle to that. So you can see the natural scenery compared to where the railway is ploughed through, and back there it's going into a cutting, and the other side is going into a cutting. So if you've no questions, I'll move away from that. Now I'll just try moving on this way. See what we've got there. Now, has your screen changed?
No, we've still got the
Not yet, no.
Right, well, that was doing it one way. I'm going to try doing it this way and double click slowly. Where am I? I can't quite see that, but I think that's one of the scenes. Yeah. So has that changed for everybody?
Not yet.
I did the same as before. So what I'll do, I'll go back and just do exactly the same again.
There we go.
There it is.
Right. So must be my computer being a very old one or something. Well, actually, it's company one. It's only 3 years old. Right. Well, going back there, we can see again, when I bring the mouse across, the 1 to 1 in 2 angle of an embankment each side. And then we go into the normal gradients of the scenery. Okay, that's a well-known viaduct. I mean, the layout's known, so I don't need to go over it too much unless anybody wants to in particular. Always try and put some colour into it. So lots of green leading up to the tunnel mouth. So we've got a nice red, quite common, a little hut at the entrance to the tunnel or near the entrance, where obviously the guy would be who perhaps walks the tunnel every day and checks it for maintenance and any damage and so on. That's what I call Sandra's Cottage. Well, it is Sandra's Cottage. It's in Gromont on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, where I used to stay when I was working with Nelpeg up there many, many years ago. And these are various buildings that are all prototypes, and they're from Runswick and Robin Hood's Bay, Whitby. Well, that's a Whitby one, that's a Runswick Bay, and that's a Runswick Bay. Right, I'm going to put my glasses on again and move on a little bit more to a different. Oh, I'll do this one. Now, has it changed for everybody?
Not yet.
Seems to work on the second time for each
There
occasion.
we go.
There we go.
Right, yeah, it seems second time it seems to go no problem. This isn't my work mainly. Okay, the lamps and things are, but they aren't really part of the building anyway. This was Jack's favourite building he ever made. It's a prototype station on the Middlesbrough-Whitby line. It's actually only modelled 1/3 of its real size in length, because the snag was you had a 6-foot radii curve, and the longer and straighter the building was, the more it would emphasise the curve. So he shrank it down, but even so, it's still the largest structure on the layout, and he was always quite proud of that. I know the Guild gave him 1 or 2 awards for it. Various bits of layout have done awards over the years. I think that's one of my later engines on that's moved on since. So I'll close that one and go on to another. Let's see. If you're doing scenery and you've got a, say, a flat earth society layout.
Hang on, we've not got that yet.
Right. So this is interesting because I'll close it and do it again a second time.
There we go.
There it goes.
So it seems as soon as I close it, you get it. This is a loco that Dougie is with us now. He's over in New Zealand. It's called a Whitby Bogie, and as he's built a model of Whitby, I took it over and just left it on the layout, because I think most of us have all got too much of everything in this hobby, and I thought, well, I don't need it all over here. Some more use over there. But the purpose of this slide is it's a flat earth society layout. There's not much option for scenery in the front there. It's all station yard. But if you look at the clutter around, and these are the coal bunkers for the signal box, which is just to the right, you can create plenty of interest. I mean, the covers there are for the point rodding, but just for a flat earth layout, you can actually create lots of interest. You can't have enough clutter, particularly towards the end of railways, because that's all they had, junk everywhere. And what I'll do now, I think that closes, yeah, that's closed slides for the moment. And I was going to show you the angles. Very, very important. As soon as you see a layout at an exhibition from across the aisle before you get near it, you can see straight away if they've paid enough attention to the railway going through the landscape rather than the other way around, where the landscape's been squeezed in after I've built the trains that I want. And this is one we use at the top of an embankment, so you can see the level or the normal scenery there with the correct angle, and we can put that on the point down towards the track. And just as you're laying your plaster work or cutting your polystyrene or foam board, before you apply plaster to it, you can see whether you've got the right sort of angle. And then, of course, the other half of that makes the other interesting one to put at the side of the track before you start. So as you're moving around the layout, you can cut your polystyrene or your builder's foam board to that sort of angle. And I think that's probably the most important thing of any layout. So that's that. Paints wise, Jack always use a lot of watercolours, children's colours. They're nice and cheap, but they do fade very, very badly in the slightest little bit of sun. So I tend to find acrylics, and okay, we've got some tubes. I like these on a palette because you can mix a little water in, mix all the colours, but you can get them ready done in jars as well. And again, add a little water, put them on a palette like an artist would. We are doing artwork after all. It's not so much railways, is it? And colour your layout in that way. Well, I think it's about 1 o'clock. That's officially supposed to be the end of it.
Has anybody got any questions before we wrap up then?
Sorry?
Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to unmute themselves and ask a question perhaps before we wrap up? Anybody out there? Well, it seems
Rob. Yeah, I've got a question, Robin. It's Doug Perkin. I'm not on video at the moment, but you're saying sugar board. I can't find sugar board online at the moment. It all keep coming back something to do with beekeeping.
Well, I quite like beekeeping actually.
Not very good for the model railway though.
I'll tell it though. It's known as various names, and I think some of them are brand orientated. Sugar board is what my dad taught me. He worked in the display studio at a large concern in Leeds, doing displays for the windows, obviously. And they called it sugar board, particularly the thicker stuff. It's also known as feather board or foam board. Now, I know I've seen it on Arlene's Emporium stand, and I've seen it on Squire's stand, but only in the thinner stuff, which is absolutely fine. I still like the best way of, when the shops are open, go in, and if you see sale boards, just ask them what they're going to do with them when they're finished with them. And if they're going to throw them out, find out about when, so you can go around skip. But many will just give them to you. It has changed slightly over the years, because initially shops jumped on it. It's lightweight, it's cheap. They all made the sale signs, special offer signs out of it. But then it was found to be highly inflammable.
Right.
So they actually changed the composite makeup slightly. Doesn't really bother us. The only thing to watch out for is, and you've got to be careful with this. Oh, I'll tell you where sells it as well as photographic mounting card, Hobbycraft.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, now we've got a Hobbycraft about 7 miles from us, but it's well worth a walk round from the railway modeller point of view, because it's got all the artist materials. But when you get to it, and this is a bit naughty, surreptitiously see if you can peel it. Now, take it. Oh, it's a damaged product. I want this cheaper. But we can tell them a Yorkshireman, can't you?
Yeah.
No, don't worry if you can't peel it, because we had some that were covered in a thin plastic film, and you could peel it, but it was very, very hard and kept breaking off. Didn't matter too much, but it took a long time. But that's still fine for covering in the Falla card or plastic card, because it's just gaining your thickness, but you've got your strength and your lightweightness, and it will withstand damp. We were in our old club rooms about 20 years, and the sun never got in there. And no matter how much heat you put on, you always felt cold and damp. We're not so bad where we are now. We've got north lights, but of course everything fades under the sunlight. You can't win.
Right. Okay. Thanks,
Right.
Robbie. Thank you.
If anybody wants anything, I am an area rep. The details of Yorkshire area rep Robin are in the Gazette. Just email me or ring me on the number I've got in there, and you can do that tomorrow or in 6 months' time. We're here to help. That's what the guild's about.
Right. Thanks very much, Robbie.
Yep. All right then. Thanks
Thank
all for attending.
Thank you very much, Robin. We'll
Hey, Robin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Doug.
I was just going to say that a lot of the stuff foam board that's around you cannot peel. That's the snag. And I once bought an old load from a supplier, new. And
You
it
have to be
won't
careful.
peel.
I actually, well, I shouldn't say it was a Skipton show. Squires was there, and I was chatting to him, and his did peel at the time, but they weren't very large sheets. I think they're A4, which is okay, but it's not the largest size. And then Hobbycraft, I've had some that peels and some that don't peel. So whether they get it from different suppliers,
Well,
they don't look for that in buying.
they're not
obviously.
they're not selling it to peel. They're selling it for other purposes. And you say, well, can you peel it? And they go, eh? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, that's why I surreptitiously test it.
Can you try a bit and tell me? No, you'll spoil it. You know.
Yeah, yeah, because they're damaging a product in effect, aren't they? Don't worry if you can't too much, if you're buying a little bit. That's the thing, buy a little bit, try it out, and then go buy all there is in there if it peels. If it doesn't peel, like I say, it's still ideal modelling stuff in that you can cover it with a falla card or plastic card or whatever you want. I won't say brick paper because it's hard to make that 3D. But the falla cards wash up quite nicely actually with a little colour. So, but yeah, do some scenic modelling. If you're fairly new to O gauge, rather than buying a Finny brass kit or something, doing some scenery is cheap. Doing some buildings and things, and it gives your layout more individuality. And of course, it's a scenic layout so the public want to see at shows. So it's the ideal thing, really. Buy DAP all ready to run and make your own buildings. It's cheaper.
And on that, maybe
Yes.
has anybody else got any more questions, or shall we wrap up for this meeting? Great. Well, thanks very much, Robin. That's been amazing. Thanks for a very interesting talk, and I absolutely love the Brunswick Bay layout. I think it's marvellous. I'm looking forward to getting to an exhibition and seeing it out there somewhere else.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody, and thanks very much, Robin, and please go elsewhere and enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.